Welcome back to Great Day. Child custody is one of the most contentious parts of a divorce case. Attorney Matt Tyson from the law office of Matt Tyson is here with what you need to consider if you're thinking about getting divorced or need to make some changes to your divorce decree. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
All right, this time of year is so tough for a lot of divorced parents because there's the visitation rights and all those things that this is why it's important to have an attorney on the front end of things, because there are things that a lot of people aren't thinking about.
Right, you definitely want to get everything, orders in place, giving you rules to follow. So when it hits the fan and things blow up on you, you have something to rely on, something to enforce.
Oh, but that's okay. They won't do that. They won't try to take the kids for Christmas. They won't do that, right?
You know
Famous last
that.
words. Yeah. All right. So let's start out with just even child custody, for example. Oftentimes a parent kind of freaks out in the beginning and says, "I want the kids." Mm-hmm. Well, especially in Texas, you're not necessarily just going to get the kids to yourself.
Right. The classic thing is, I want full custody. Mm-hmm. Well, there's no such thing as full custody in the state of Texas. And what I tell my clients is, unless blood, guts, gore, or rape apply to your child, the other parent is going to have access.
Yeah, it has to be really severe for them not to have access to those children.
Correct.
What would constitute something like supervised visits versus them just going off with that parent for the whatever?
Supervised visits, so if there's been family violence in the last 4 years, there's a presumption that the parent who committed family violence should be supervised with their child.
Yeah.
That's one thing off the bat. Other times it's just a case by case, depends on the facts.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who has been abusing the children or maybe abusing your spouse, obviously we're going to make sure these kids are protected and you're supervised when you're around them.
Okay, what if you have, because sometimes parents play the games and you have the kid who goes, "I don't want to see you."
Well, that's the same thing as the kid who doesn't want to go to school. That's on the parent to force them that, well, you're going to get up and you're going to go to school this day, and you're going to go see your dad or you're going to go see your mom because that's what you have to do, and you're the child and I'm the parent. Now, if the parent doesn't do that, then that's grounds for modification, and we're going to flip it to the parent who will ensure that the child sees both parents.
Okay. So we mentioned joint custody. That can look any way you want to look. It could be like half time or whatever.
Sure.
Sometimes you have certain things like one parent may travel a lot or whatever, so you work out when you have them, you work out what holidays. It gets pretty tedious at times, but again, this is to avoid problems on the back end.
It does. And so, what you can do and what I encourage a lot of people to do is work it out. And so as parents, y'all know best what's in the best interest of your child. And
ask your child, if they're old enough, ask them what they would like, right? Make them part of the process so they don't have to feel like they're losing their parents, but their parents both love them. They may not be with each other, but they've not given up on their children. All right, so sole custody, we mentioned that. What is possessory?
Possessory is it's a term of art we use in family law. What I tell my clients is they get caught up in JMC, which is joint managing conservator, versus SMC, sole managing conservator, and possessory conservator.
Yeah.
Really don't worry about those. What you need to worry about are the rights and duties. Those are what really matter to a parent in terms of what they have the rights to do with their child. And those rights and duties include everything from the right to determine where the child's going to be educated at, medical decisions, psychiatric decisions. Those are the three big ones we do. We call those head meds and eds in our world.
Okay, it makes total sense. It's like, yanking them out of school, or whether one parent can move far away from the other one, making it difficult for them to get them back over for visitation. That can even be determined.
Right, that's called a residency restriction. Here in Harris County and the surrounding counties, most judges are going to give what's called a residency restriction. For instance, in Harris County, most likely you're going to have a residency restriction that states Harris and contiguous county. So you can move to the far end of Brazoria County, the far end of Montgomery County, but you're still within your residency restriction. You can't move to Austin, you can't move to Dallas.
England's out.
Right, England's out.
Okay, speaking of even going out of the country, if you're going on a vacation or something, are there any restrictions that need to be looked at there, or some discussions to be made there?
Sometimes we're a multicultural city. We have people here from all over the world, and their home countries are everywhere. Now, what comes into play there is what's called the Hague Convention. And so if your home country is a signature to the Hague Convention, then they're going to respect our laws, and we've got no problem with you taking the child, going overseas
to visit,
because if you decide to stay there, that your country is going to pull them back. Now, the issue arises if your country is not a signature to the Hague Convention. We'll pick on North Korea, for instance. If you're from North Korea, well, obviously they're not a signature to
North Korea, how'd you get out? Number one. but anyway, you're right.
True.
They don't recognize it, so you don't have a legal standing.
So it would be a huge issue, and that would be a big fight in a case if a parent is from North Korea and wants to take their child back home. Obviously, the other parent is going to be very concerned with legitimate reasons.
Right. Okay, speaking of big fight, child support always comes into play. And sometimes I think people get confused. Child support versus like alimony versus like paying for all of your bills. Child support is specifically for what it would take for that child, but if you're not necessarily paying your whole rent because you're already paying for some place to stay, right? So sometimes people get that confused about what child support should look like versus your community property, for example.
What I tell my clients is child support is a math formula, period, point blank. That's all it is. You don't need to worry about what it's being spent on because it doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with the child's needs. It doesn't have anything to do with what the other parent is spending or makes or doesn't make. It is just a math formula. For one kid, it's 20% of the first $8,300 you make a month. Now we're capped, so that's going to be what it is. But that is just a math formula. It does not matter what they're spending it on.
Yeah, that's so hard for so many people to get past.
Really
the other thing is, I know you've heard this a lot of times. I'm paying child support. I'm going to stop because that other parent's not letting me see the child the way I want to.
Child support has nothing to do with seeing the child. And the flip is that is, hey, they're not paying me child support, therefore they don't get to see the child.
Right.
Both those people are wrong, and both those people are going to have an enforcement filed against them, and they should lose.
Okay, so you have your divorce decree. You thought of everything, and then all of a sudden somebody's not following the rules. Can you go back in and amend or adjust?
Sure, you can always file what's called a motion to modify, and oftentimes, if you're divorced 5 years ago, things change. There's material and circumstantial changes in the circumstance of the child, which
sometimes people can make more money and all kinds of things.
Or less money, or they want to move. Sometimes we had talked about the residency restriction.
Right.
Well, what if you remarry and your spouse has a job in another state and you need to move because your new family? Well, that's conflicting between the rights of the parent here, the rights of the parent that needs to move, and so that's going to be a motion to modify. We're going to have to go to court and sort that out. But circumstances change, and when things change, you can always call somebody like me, and we can get into court. And
speaking of somebody like you, you are kind of set apart from some law firms, or at least what are thought of what some law firms might be. You're just kind of a realist with people because you want to save them time and money.
Right. Well, I don't come from lawyers, so I have a little bit different view on attorneys. I like to be the lawyer that makes my family proud. And if I was that sleazy lawyer that just ripped you off and told you what you wanted to hear so I could get paid, then I wouldn't be welcome at home for Christmas, and I'm looking forward to going home in about a week and eating a good meal.
Right. You also give people your cell phone number.
I do. I feel like if you can't get a hold of me, then what's the good of having me? And so my clients, they don't want to talk to my staff, they want to talk to me. And so they get my cell phone and they can call me always directly.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
To get in touch with Matt Tyson, you can call 713-869-7474, 713-869-7474. And for more information, log on to mtysonlaw.com.